Welcome to part 2 of my series on Chinese science fiction. Now I'm going to look at a work that is very different from the Three Body series. It's called the City Trilogy by Hsi-Kuo. Chang lived much of his life in Taiwan, but later moved to the United States where he spent nearly his entire scholarly career. However, he did write in Chinese and has been very influential in his home Taiwan. So this therefore counts as Chinese sci-fi, I think. It also seems more of a work of science fantasy, a la Star Wars. Although within its world there are things like starships and laser guns and machines that can transmit thoughts, a lot of the fighting is still done on horseback with swords. So anyway, the City Trilogy is a book of only 400 pages, but is still an impressive work of world building. It takes place entirely on the Huhui planet. The Huhui citizens are now ruled by the galactic empire of the Shan. And the first part of the book deals mainly with an uprising against the Shan, while the rest of the book, the Huhui reckon with divisions in their own society, as well as their own history of colonization on the planet, which, although is named for them, is not their home world. Despite these weighty issues, the City Trilogy is actually really whimsical in tone and often satirizes aspects of Chinese society. I'm going to read a section where a character is reading a set of rules regarding the treatment of unarmed advisors from his Little Red Book of Battlefield Regulations. And in case you didn't get that, Little Red Book is obviously a parody of the quotations of Chairman Mao. How come I've never heard of either the 3 major laws or the 8 regulations? You've never heard of them? Well, let me recite them for you, Ah Chu leisurely recited. The 3 major laws for an advisor are: Number 1, after going to the bathroom, an advisor must wash his hands before eating. Number 2, no eating or buying snacks between meals. Number 3, if he can get away without advising, he should do so. Those are the 3 major laws governing advisors? Asked Yu Kuei, surprised. If being an advisor is so easy, then I want the job. Ah Chu paid no attention to Yu Kuei's interruption. He continued to leisurely recite the 8 regulations. The 8 regulations are: pay attention to results, not causes. Ask about the causes, not results. Pay attention to life, not death. Ask about death, not life. Advise the good, not the bad. Ask about the bad, not the good. Pay attention to the small, not the big. Ask about the big, not the small. That's much more profound, said Yu Kuei, scratching his head. Ah Chu, what do they mean? I don't know, said Ah Chu, closing his Little Red Book. They must be right, because they are in the Little Red Book. The City Trilogy is idiosyncratic to say the least. You not only have strange aliens like a telepathic character with his face on top of his head, and whimsical technologies like a car that hops like a frog, but the writing itself is unique. Chang has actually created his own symbols derived from Chinese characters that he uses to convey abstract, contradictory concepts. The most important symbols to the Huhui are these. I think they will appear there. Pronounced Du Wu. Du Wu is central to the Huhui philosophy, and every single faction interprets it differently. Some think one must sometimes be Du and sometimes be Wu. Others think that one must be a hybrid of both, and neither can ever be in a pure state. The same way there is always Yang within Yin and Yin within Yang. Others do not acknowledge any difference between the two and see unity in everything. I think these different interpretations all represent different forms of Eastern thought and philosophy. Taoism, Buddhism, Zen. Maybe this is Chang's way of saying that complex schools of thought can arise from interpretations of very simple and even arbitrary, contradictory concepts. I don't know. But the point is, the City Trilogy got me thinking. Not just about what was written in it, but about the little bit of Chinese history and literature that I have read. But even more importantly, the endless libraries of books that I haven't read. I was already seeing allegory everywhere. Who knows what I would see if I were better read in the Chinese classics. So the City Trilogy is a work of great depth and nuance, all wrapped up into one kind of silly package. I would love to see it made into a film in the style of Fantastic Planet if it were animated, or made with the technological restrictions and the same style of the original Star Trek. Of course, that would never happen. But stick around for part 3, because I'm going to talk about this anthology of Chinese science fiction short stories.